Hey everyone, this is Freddie Hudson, and you're listening to the Dave Dynasty Show.
The Midwest supporting, bruiser loving, positivity spreading, world's most dangerous podcast. Join former pro wrestler and promoter Dave Dynasty as he supports and promotes Midwest pro wrestling. Keep on growing with the Midwest Express. This is the Dave Dynasty Show.
Welcome to the Dave Dynasty Show. I'm your host, Dave Dynasty. Thank you for joining us. We got kind of a short episode for you today, but we got a good one. An interview with Freddie Hudson, a guy you should know if you don't already. Learn that name because Freddie's got some big things coming up in his future, and you're going to want to know him now. A great up-and-coming Midwest star. Got a cool interview with him, conducted with Ike Isaac. Excuse me, kind of mumbled my words there. But not much going on otherwise. Everything's good here. Staying home, staying safe, staying cool. So wherever you are, I hope you're doing the same. And wherever you are, make sure you follow us on all our social media. You heard the plug at the top of the show. Make sure you hit us on all those things. Throw a few bucks our way. Keep this show free. Like I said, everything we make goes right back into the show to bring every episode to you for free. And while you're out there, make sure you hit our sponsor, Manscaped. Use the code DYNASTY20 and you will save on 20%, on your order plus free shipping. And while you're visiting Manscaped, make sure you check out the Performance Package 4.0. In this package, you'll find the Lawnmower 4.0, the Weed Whacker, Crop Preserver, Crop Reviver, Boxer Briefs, and a Shed Travel Bag. The travel bag is cool. I love the travel bag that I got from Manscaped. And you're going to love it all. The Lawnmower 4.0 is a great piece of machinery. It does the work. It gets you clean where you need to be. The Weed Whacker is great for keeping the nose and ears cleaned up and everything else. You're going to love all their products, the Crop Preserver, the Crop Reviver. They have all kinds of deodorants and powders and gels and what have you. Go check them out, manscaped.com. You're going to want to just buy it all. Just buy everything. But right now, get the Performance Package 4.0. That will get you started with the Lawnmower 4.0, the Weed Whacker, and a sampling of some other products, including that great travel bag. The travel bag, I'm telling you, everywhere I go, my toiletries are in this travel bag. You're going to love it. So go, manscaped.com, get the Performance Package 4.0, and make sure you use the promo code DYNASTY20, DYNASTY20. You will save 20% and get free shipping. You're going to want to do it. Go now, get the Performance Package 4.0, use DYNASTY20 to save some money, and then you can thank me on the backside. You're going to love it. I love it. I love all the products I got. And we thank them for supporting the Dave Dynasty Show and help keeping it free. So support them for supporting us. You get how this works, right? All right. So let's take a break. When we come back, we'll have that interview with Freddie Hudson. So you stick around.
Hi there, wrestling fans. We have a tremendous card for you, and we'll bring you our first event immediately following this important, informative interlude.
Hey guys, thank you for joining us and listening to the Dave Dynasty Show. Before we get started today, make sure you follow us on all of our social media platforms. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/The Dave Dynasty. You can also find us on Twitter at twitter.com/The Dave Dynasty, or if you're on there, just do @The Dave Dynasty. Of course, subscribe to us on YouTube at youtube.com/The Dave Dynasty. Subscribe to the podcast on all podcast platforms. Just look up Dave Dynasty Show and you will find the feed for all of the Dynasty Wrestling Podcast Network episodes. If you'd like to contribute to the show, you can do that by going to PROWRESTLINGTEES.com/The Dave Dynasty and buying a shirt that helps us out. Or if you would just like to make a contribution, go to paypal.me/The Dave Dynasty. Anything helps. It all goes back into the show, keeps it free for you. Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe and review and share. Now, let's get to the show.
Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another interview on the Dave Dynasty Show. I'm your co-host, Ike Isaacs, and today we are with the wonderful, the amazing Freddie Hudson. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. We're rocking and rolling, living the dream. Well, hey, we'll go ahead and jump right into this. But As always, one of our very first questions for all of our guests is we like to kind of get to know a little bit about your history with wrestling, how you got to, how you got into wrestling, and kind of when it hooked you. So tell us a little bit of, your past with wrestling. Did you grow up watching it, or is this something that you picked up later in life?
Yeah, I grew up watching it. I started watching wrestling when I was about 5, 6 years old. I've always I loved it and everything. So I started watching William Regal, The Undertaker, all the Hall of Famers and everything. So then I did amateur wrestling in elementary school, middle school, and high school. So I was always in shape. So I did backyard wrestling for a little bit, and then one of my buddies was trying to run a show inside the arena in Jeffersonville, Indiana, and the person who owns that building in Jeffersonville is Too Tough Tony. So he talked to Too Tough Tony about possibly running shows, and Tony said, hey guys, I can't let you guys run a show here at the moment because you guys aren't trained. But if you guys go through the training and everything and pay your dues and all, then we can see we can work something out. So I started wrestling in 2017 at Grindhouse Pro Wrestling Academy. I was trained by Rudy Switchblade, who used to wrestle for OVW, Raul Lamada, who used to wrestle for OVW, and ever since then, I've just been kicking and rolling since then.
Right on. Yeah, it's actually really, interesting that a lot of folks who got into the wrestling business, they have some kind of sports background, and like you said, you did the amateur wrestling and the backyard wrestling and whatnot. So it's always very interesting to hear that, because I hear that from a lot of people actually. But with that being said, obviously you kind of had a moment where it clicked that you wanted to do the professional wrestling gig. You kind of mentioned that process of, I did the amateur wrestling, I did the backyard wrestling, and then eventually I got trained. But what really drove you to get trained and become part of the sport? What about it really hooked you and got you and drew you in?
I've ever since I started watching wrestling, I've always I never really thought about actually doing it until I started doing backyard wrestling, and then I was like, you know what? I want to I actually want to give this a try, and why not? So I started since then, and ever since then, cool. I've just been kicking it.
And it's kind of weird too, because you, like you said, you just had that sort of click moment while you're doing the backyard wrestling, which I've heard that a lot from people too, is that it just kind of comes in the most obscure ways, but that's good. And you talked to us a little bit about your training already, but obviously when you start out in the sport, it can be very hard to get the experience under your belt and everything else, especially right after you get trained and everything. So early on, was there anybody who took you under your wing or helped advise or coached you at all?
Yes. Of course, my trainers, Rudy Switchblade and Raul Lamada. But the one person that I got close to, once I started doing certain shows and everything, and started traveling out, was Mouse's Wrestling Adventures. He's a photographer out of the Louisville, Kentucky area. I started when I started training there. I started getting to know him and his wife and his daughter Billy Stars. So then I started training. I started riding out with Mouse to shows, because he's been doing photography for shows for years. So I was riding the shows with him, like Rockstar Pro, Glory Pro, Black Label Pro, just anywhere that I can soak up some knowledge from people.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the best way to do it, is just go wherever life takes you. And, if you get a chance to go somewhere, go for sure. So now we're going to kind of move into some of the stuff that you're doing currently, or semi-currently, I should say. But tell us a little bit about Shooters Don't Die.
Yes. So the whole gist of Shooters Don't Die is that me and Mr. Don't Die Miles, we are actually best friends in real life, not even just because of wrestling and everything, just in general, because we know each other for a while, because we used to wrestle at a certain place in Indianapolis. And then we were like friends. We were cool. Like we didn't talk like as much as we do now. So then this promotion in Indianapolis, Indiana, called Asylum Wrestling Revolution (AWR), they ran a promotion, and Miles needed a tag partner. So we were friends already. So he called me up on FaceTime. We were talking. He told me he needed a partner. So we were like, yeah, sure, why not? So we started tagging, and our first match was against Nolan Edward and Dylan Daring. And yeah, we talk every day. Like we chat on the phone through text message, or we usually just whenever we hang out, we talk a lot of like smack to each other because we're like really competitive when we play NBA 2K all the time. So we like get into it, but we're like he's like a brother to me. So
No, absolutely. And, I've always said that if the wrestling business is good for one thing, it's good for finding some people that you can definitely make it through life with, for sure. There's a lot of folks in this business, who do the bad stuff, but there's a lot of good people too. So a lot of good people you can make friends with, for sure. So it's always good to hear, the positivity of pro wrestling, if you will.
yeah.
But with that being said, you have definitely a very interesting career up to this point. But obviously, you kind of came into wrestling over the last few years, and you've been a part of wrestling. I would say probably one of the most precarious times in all of wrestling history, with that being the 2020, COVID-19 outbreak and everything else. So, what was it like for you during the shutdown, and not necessarily being on the road every week?
For me, it was a little bit difficult because while wrestling was like kind of slowed down, like it was like regular life and everything, I was just working nonstop. And then I moved to Florida for a little bit, and then COVID was kind of coming back, but not like as much. So I did like a couple of shows in Florida, and then I recently just moved back. But with COVID and like in the year like 2020, it was very like hard because I was like, it was like, man, I really want to go travel to like this place I never been to, or I want to go to this promotion to help out, set up and tear down and everything. But with it being closed, it was just like it was really like difficult and all for me. Not, I can't say for other people, but I
Right.
know that for me it was difficult.
No, absolutely. And I think most people would agree with you. I think
Yeah.
most would. I think, one of the worst things about the whole pandemic is, with wrestling, it's one of those things where wrestling is very dependent upon people being around other people. I mean, for obvious reasons. So, with an epidemic of the nature of COVID-19 hitting us, I know that wrestling got hit pretty hard too. But, now that things are kind of opening back up a little bit, are you also starting to kind of venture out more and doing more appearances and whatnot?
Yes. There's a certain promotion that I want to hit to like not possibly get on, but like show face and everything. So like a certain promotion Black Label Pro when they come back, like GCW of course, and like Warrior Wrestling, Chicago Style, and just like particular big companies I want to try and hit and everything. So yeah.
No, absolutely. But through it all, of course, you've still been wrestling for a bit now, and you're still pretty young. You're still really getting into, I guess, the swing. Really you're hitting your stride. You're getting going, and you're doing your thing. How are you feeling about your career at this point?
Honestly, I feel like my career is good, but I feel like there's a lot, like a way much more that I can improve on. So
Right.
like I can get to like that next level myself personally and everything.
No, for sure. That's definitely a sentiment that I hear from a lot of folks. And I can't remember who it was who said it to me, but they said, if you're done learning, if you're done improving, it's time to get out. So
Yeah.
it's definitely it is always an upward curve. You're always looking to improve, trying to find the next thing to help create your character, help create your ability and everything else. But with that being said, sort of on a different train of thought, if you will, you're definitely a part of, I would say, one of the best generations of independent wrestling. Even though we are going through, again, a very precarious time right now, independent wrestling is an amazing scene. And I want to know, what is your opinion on what is the best and worst part of being a part of independent wrestling?
I think the best part about being in independent wrestling, I would say, is the people that you get to meet.
Right.
And then I'd say the worst part about professional wrestling is, I guess show length, like depending on how long the
Right.
show is. Like, I'd rather be at a show for like 2 hours, so not like 3 or 4 hours. So show length, but I know certain places like want to give everybody like what they want to see and everything.
No, absolutely. And I've actually heard that too. A lot of independent promotions, they like to run a little long, and I've heard that sentiment before for sure. Length of the show is definitely something I take into consideration when I go to these shows. So like, I'll ask around, be like, hey, just curious, how long do these shows normally run before I actually roll with the show or whatever? Because it's obviously I usually go as a spectator or commentator, but still, it's a lot of time to spend in one place.
Yeah.
But I feel like we've gotten to talk a little bit about your wrestling, but I do want to take a short detour and get to know Freddie Hudson outside of the ring. So let me ask, what's one thing most fans don't know about Freddie Hudson?
I think the one thing that most people don't know about me is that I love videography, like videography, cinematography, and everything. I went to college at Vincent University when I went, and I took electronic media. So my plan B for like after wrestling, 'cause I never really like completed college all the way, so I do want to like go back because like my plan B, like I have this like set in stone that I want to do. That I either want to work for a radio station, but for the radio station, I want to like be like have my own talk show or like play
Right.
music for the radio. Or if I work for a television, I want to work for like a news station, but I don't want to be on camera. I'd rather like edit the videos or like the B-roll or like shoot the anchor people and everything, or like do editing stuff.
No, absolutely. And that's, I give a lot of credit to folks who, want to pursue that part of, content creation and everything else, because I feel like that's definitely some of the most difficult aspects. Don't get me wrong, there's obviously challenges to, showing up and being in front of a camera, but, there's a certain kind of person that gets to be behind the camera and can successfully do the things that they need to do for sure. So that's awesome. I guess another question kind of in that same line of thought is, what do you like to do for fun outside of the ring? I know you mentioned earlier you like to play 2K, but what's some stuff that, Freddie Hudson does to relax?
I usually either I'm watching my niece and nephew, or I would go to the walking bridge. It's a bridge in Jeffersonville, Indiana, that it's a walking bridge where it connects to Louisville, Kentucky. So most of the time I just walk that bridge if I'm bored at home or like not doing anything, or if I'm just taking the time off. I would either walk that bridge, or I would if I'm not doing that, I would go home and like watch Netflix or like Hulu to me.
No, absolutely. And I too spend a lot of time watching, movies and TV shows. So I got to ask, what's your favorite movie and or favorite TV show?
My favorite TV show, I would say, it's like two of them. It's between Black Mirror and Snowfall. And then favorite movie, I would say, would have to be the Sinister movie series, like the horror movie series, like one
Yeah.
and two. So I'm really hoping they make a third, but I don't know if they are making a third or not.
Yeah, Sinister is pretty solid. Honestly, I watched the second one not too long ago, and it was pretty good too.
Yeah,
I've seen Black Mirror, but I've not seen Snowfall, so I'll have to check that out.
yeah.
I
Snowfall on Hulu. It's pretty good actually.
right. I'll say so. If anybody out there is looking for TV or movie suggestions, Freddie Hudson just gave you some. But right on. Well, here's what we're gonna do now. So we're gonna wrap up just a little bit, but I do have a couple last things for you that I want to kind of throw out there for some folks. First and foremost, obviously, we're crazily enough, we're almost halfway through 2021. Feels like 2020 just passed. I feel like I feel like I'm stuck in 2019 sometimes. But with 2021 being almost half over, what are some goals that you have for the remainder of the year?
My goal for remaining year is to improve on my wrestling myself, but also I want Shooters Don't Die to be one of like the best tag teams in wrestling. That's one of my super main goals for like us, me and Miles being a tag team. That I want us to be like one of those tag teams that people want to like wrestle or like
Right.
see or like they talk about and everything.
No, absolutely, for sure.
Yeah.
And of course, as time goes on, we'll hopefully see that happen. We'd love to see Shooters Don't Die, and we'd love to see Freddie Hudson continuing to explode on the independent scene. So we're excited for that. So I guess the last thing I want to do for you is we live in the 21st century, and social media is crazy important. So do you have any social medias where fans can follow you and follow your career?
Yes. I have a athlete page on Facebook under Freddie Hudson. My Instagram and Twitter is under Freddie Hudson 15. I also have a Pro Wrestling Tees store. That is Pro Wrestling Tees / Freddie Hudson. And I also have a Brainbuster Tees store. That is brainbustertees.com / I believe it's Freddie. Either it's Freddie Hudson or it's Freddie / Hudson. Yeah.
Right on. Well, folks, everybody out there who is listening to this podcast right now, I want you guys to go out there, follow those social medias, check out Freddie. You won't be disappointed. Check out all the stuff that he mentioned. Check out Shooters Don't Die. He's a great performer. He does what he needs to do in that ring. And you guys will not be sorry that you checked him out on social media at all. So let's get that done out there. Freddie, I want to first and foremost thank you again for, coming on the show and taking the time to talk to us. It's always a pleasure to talk to, folks out there who are, in the business and everything else. And especially during this very interesting time, it's always great to hear from people who are still in the business trying to make it work. So we definitely appreciate that.
Thank you.
No, absolutely. And we're going to send it back to Dave Dynasty to finish off the show.
If you are looking for the best books, DVDs, and posters on classic wrestling nostalgia, then you want to visit crowbarpress.com. There are literally dozens of titles there, including biographies of the likes of Bruiser Brody, Ole Anderson, Ivan Koloff, and of course, Dick the Bruiser, as we've spoke about here on the Dave Dynasty Show. You want to visit crowbarpress.com for all of your classic wrestling nostalgia needs. Again, that is crowbarpress.com. All right. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Dave Dynasty Show. Thank you for all that you do to support us here in our Midwest Express movement that we do. We try to do the good work, people, and we appreciate you helping us. Like I said, make sure you hit up those social medias. Follow them all, especially YouTube, right? Go out there. There's all kinds of cool stuff on YouTube. Old classic wrestling, all the episodes of the podcast, audio clips, some YouTube exclusive stuff. And I've even started doing some toy unboxings because I love toys. I collect toys. And I'm going to start putting some of these unboxing videos up there if you want to just see them. Whatever. They're there, but go check them out. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Just look up The Dave Dynasty on YouTube, and we're there. And make sure wherever you listen to us that you subscribe to us. We're on all the podcast platforms. And if you are on one that you can, rate and review us because it helps us. And that algorithm helps get us a little notoriety to people that listen to wrestling podcasts. When you're on their social medias, make sure you share our stuff. Help spread the word. That's the best thing we can ever do is the networking, right? The word of mouth helps get us new listeners, new subscribers, excuse me. And we do appreciate all that you do. But like I said, we post lots of cool stuff on Twitter and Facebook. We have a great Facebook group, a page. You're going to want to check it all out. And don't forget the other podcasts here on the Dynasty Wrestling Podcast Network, the Ring-a-Ding-Dong Dandy Stampede Podcast. I know it's been a bit, but they're about to come out with a new episode. You're going to love it. I'm not going to announce the guest just yet, but it is a great, great guest for that Stampede Podcast. And don't forget the Ontario Wildmen with Wes and Jess. That's a great show that just started. They're already working on their next episode to be out at the beginning of July for Canada Day. You're going to want to listen to it. Lots of clips and well wishes from wrestling personalities in the Ontario area. So if you're down with those, check them out. We're covering Canada very well, and of course I've got the Midwest U.S. So check those out. Subscribe to us. All you gotta do is subscribe to the Dave Dynasty Show on any other podcast platforms. They're all on the same feed, right? You can listen to everything as they come out. It's simple, it's easy, and we appreciate you doing it. So until next time, wherever you go and whatever you do, be good, be safe, and keep on growing.